Hi everyone. As I was getting ready, I remember one of the first positive hack days, which had happened back in the Red October in Moscow about 10 years ago. Can you believe that? And even back then, it was like a flagship event in the city. I mean, PhD days. And I remember taking a photo with a Bruce Snyder. And right now, PH Days would be the largest conference. Thank you to all the organizers for making it a reality. And now I can talk right here. And thank you to Michael, who is supervising the section. Well, no, the topic of my presentation is about the maturity models for the network security. There is a book, Upward Spiral by Mike Rodin. He's talking about how a company may be evolving, what kind of challenges it may be facing. And I'm the guy who is in network security, and I begin to think, is anything like that possible in network security? Are there any stages for each company goes through? And this book says, theory is great, but I would like, after this presentation, so that you guys would have, very practical, oriented, component in your work. I'm the person who has an engineering background. I've looked like, are there any similar models, basically? Similar models right now, which would be available. Just give me a second right here. And I'm working with a team. We have a very good expertise on networks, and I was trying to formulate the challenges of when you are using the network security. And I'm responsible for a product. I wanted to make sure that this would be practically important for the practically valuable. If we are speaking about some similar things. Yeah, there are some normative documents, and we're speaking about the normative documents of stack or different standards, and they're saying, okay, there are some requirements, we have to meet them. And it's not clear of how we're going to make this. It's one great principle. It says, theory is great, but we forgot about the practical pitfalls. Now, what are the pitfalls in our practical everyday operations? Speaking about the network security services, what kind of challenges they may be facing? They need to build safe communication channels, decrease attack surfaces, and also to maintain availability. And the last point is regularly introduce upgrades and changes, which may sound very controversial with the previous points like availability of the systems. Next point is tons of different topologies. We're speaking about the data centers, we are speaking about the private and public clouds, distributed edge computing, and what we've seen, remote access for employees. Now, on top of all these topologies, we also have a wide range of network equipment. And again, this is what people have to deal with, different kind of legacy fire stations, and so many things on the Russian market, firewalls and things like that. So it's very interesting to watch. VPN gateways and firewalls, and Now, out of this model, what I would like to break it down and to understand where a certain organization is, and how to move on as a company and how to do that. Per this model, let us take a look at the 4 different stages or 4 different levels, beginning, developing, advanced, and expert. Let's begin with the beginner level. What do we have today? That our network is being fine-tuned manually. We do not have any automation tools just yet. And the guys are beginning to get bogged down. They've been working like putting out fires, so to speak, and they're trying to just do the patching, fixing stuff, and they do not have an idea what to do next. And at one point, probably it's going to be on Friday, late on Friday, when the head of the network operations, they come back home, they understand that this is not the right thing to do. You need some action plan. Something got to be changed, and they're in some sort of crisis. We know that crisis could also be the way or an opportunity to do something new. And let's try to understand what is happening at this stage. Very often, what is being used would be the Excel tables to describe networks. Overall, the process is not very well structured. Any changes may increase surface of the attack. I'm not even speaking about compliance. And I probably have a question for the audience, like who of you guys today is still using Excel spreadsheets to describe your network? Do we have anybody like that? Yes, I believe it's not like too bad. My wife is a financier. For them, Excel spreadsheet would be the main tool they are still using. Oh yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, then we are going to also to look into like what would be the opportunities there as well. Well, next. On each stage, there'll be some questions which will help you to provide answers, find answers, and to see whether you're on this level or maybe possibly you are on some different levels. Just a couple of these questions we can highlight, the ones you see in the screen. Like if you see any changes in configurations and you don't know why they were made and who made them, or you are looking at some kind of rules and on the firewall, you do not know why this rule is needed. So the main principle is like it is working, don't touch it. So any changes are creating big nervousness. And also communication between departments, interdepartmental communication, we're not even looking at that right now. So next, we begin making steps to be able to improve the situation. Step number 1, and quite obvious, would be that we need to decide what are the key assets we have. So we involve the owners of the information systems and architects and different heads of the departments in the company. Okay, fine. Let's say we've identified what are the critical objects, and then we want, based on that, we would like to build the initial approach, like the policy of network security. At this initial stage, we identify the classic system like DMZ, corporate network, and also in a segment where we protect especially secure information. Could be critical infrastructure facility, or speaking about the banks, this could be, whatever, something critical. And we try to identify what segment we can connect, maybe we cannot connect. And we identified internal rules, and then we have to cross it cross it with what regulators are saying. Now, one classical example would be this would be demand public law 5758, like stack and DSM and some other international standards. ICO, PCI, DSS, or ICO 20001. And a side note right here. The next stages will be also connected with automation. With automation, I know that firewall management platform, maybe an SPM system, whatever you call it, this kind of platform potentially will help you to streamline your processes. Of course, there are many systems like that, and well, all in all, you have some additional or auxiliary systems which could be utilized, and it must not be kind of out of the box ready product. Like a couple of weeks back, there was a Link Meetup conference, and the guys from the T-Bank, they were speaking about how they were able to write the platform, their own platform, which automates network security processes. Next, let's move on to the next stage, and the next stage is called the developing or evolving level. Now, what's about that level? We've identified the basic policies of the network security, and we launch certain processes related to automation, and we focus on the grooming the rights, and of course, up to this moment, we may have a certain number of rules, and we have to identify like whether these rules would be optimal or not for the company in terms of could they be clustered? Are there any objects which are not used in those rules? So we're trying to dig deep down and try to get a needle out of haystack, so to speak. But again, teams are not super interoperable. First, they have to work on their problems and then build a relationship with different departments. What are advantages for a company right here? Number one, we can see some network topology. It is not simply on paper. Which has been upgraded from project to project. We can already solve some issues related to network access. We have the basic segmentation at this point, and manually, in a certain a time frame, we can validate normative regulations in a certain network. And we are thinking at this point about automation and optimizing some of our policies. So having given up Excel spreadsheets, those network and IB guys, they can see that the network is changing. They can look differences at different various configurations. They can see what is changing in the network. Probably they do not fully understand who have done this or that. It's about certain movements, but they can see already some things are changing. Now, what kind of questions we can ask ourselves at this stage? So whenever you see this type of changes on the network and equipment, do you see the full context, like who has made what and why these changes are being made? So it's already easier for you to introduce those challenges, but you're still being a little bit apprehensive about that. And would that be possible to improve this whole process of updating rules in firewalls? Now, what kind of steps we can take to be able to improve our infrastructure? For one, standardizing security policies. This is not an easy challenge because every vendor, they have their own thing going on with how they describe the rules and and what have you. And one of the challenges that we have to face is to build vendor-independent rules which are going to look the same for all the vendors. And so this policy of network security, which we had identified on the previous level, we can do this. We can put this into our system, and any changes can be measured against this matrix of network access. And so immediately we'll be able to understand, like, are things, matching or not matching? Next is moving from Excel to certain changes. Like, it's a change management system helping us, enabling us to introduce changes into our firewalls through tickets and applications. Next one, please. This would be integration. Integration with joint systems in, for example, things like IPAM, CM, and ITSM system. My next question is, who is using IPAM system for describing their own network?
Super. Thank you very much for your replies. Well, let's move forward. The next stage is called advanced level. What do we have at this level? We already have organization, orchestration of the life cycle for the rules. Then we can proactively check changes for the compliance to the defined requirements. So when through the application we try to apply changes to the network, and then we check whether it complies to regulatory framework and the policies of the security. Also, we can add some additional requirements, and then we have integration with auxiliary tools, which allows us to support more of network exploitation scenarios. At a given stage, what we have forecastable policy changes. Well, introduced changes, they are optimal because they are checked on the stage of changes application, so that something is not getting lost or we're not creating new object, but we're uniting it with some existing objects. And the fact that we're checking everything for the compliance of the network policy compliance, in result, we don't increase the surface of attack. So what are the questions that we might have at a given stage? Would you like to improve automation of changes of the network rules? Well, in other words, how the rules created within this system do comply to the requirements of minimalicity, and have you covered the pool of networking equipment that is available, or you have some gaps which you would like to cover? So what are the steps for the improvement? During the previous stages, we've been looking at situations when optimization is done manually. We see that we have shadow rules or rules which can be united, rules which have no heads, and basically manually we've been deciding what is to be done with it. At this stage we are ready and we understand that in principle all these can be automated. And that due to certain reasons, there's a problem with a certain rule, that's how we can say it, and we can automatically do the decommissioning of this rule, which helps us to optimize the work of the brand malware itself. The next topic is application of minimal privileges principle. This is something that we have already discussed, and the principle which is well known to everyone. However, it's easier said than done. What is important on this stage. It is important to get rid of objects of the rule. We try to narrow down the ranges so that it wouldn't be with mask 24, but something smaller, and ideally, precisely, we should have specific IP addresses with destination and services which are required for the work of a certain application.
Здесь мы
On this one,
говорим про управление жизненным циклом.
in here, we're speaking about the life cycle application for the rule. What is important to understand that rules are created through applications, which helps us to quickly create those rules. However, after a certain period of time,
Каких-то правил можно
the importance of certain rules can be lost, and we are speaking about certification of the rule.
То есть при создании правила мы
So when the rule is being created, we define a certain period of time for which this rule will be enacted. After this period of time, we should review this rule
насколько оно
and we should understand how timely it is for the given moment of time. Well, improved integration.
ITSM, vulnerability management.
I'm speaking about the ITSM, vulnerability management, and GRC. ITSM, I've been speaking about it. There are certain cases which have already been worked on, but they are being added with time.
Изменение правил их становится
A number of variants of rule change, there becomes more and more of those.
следующий этап. Четвертый — это
The next stage, stage 4, it's the final stage, expert level.
на этом этапе
What do we have at the expert level?
решение всех проблем.
Fast resolution of all the problems related with the network, and the main objective that
Есть на этом этапе понимать
we might have at this stage
смежных подразделений.
is to understand the context within the auxiliary departments. So we should have a single
Взаимодействие между
mechanism of cooperation between different teams, DevOps, cloud safety, security, networking security, in other words, different departments.
что мы имеем на этом этапе.
What do we have at this stage?
Процесс
We have automated process of policy changes, full cycle of rule management,
важно, мы уже
and what is also very important, we are ready
близки к тому, чтобы
or very close to increasing
мы сразу
the network so that we could immediately apply
могли для вот
requirements for the developing infrastructure.
есть вопросы на текущем этапе. Ну вот вопрос
What questions do we have at a given stage? Well, questions related with communication of departments on the same language.
насколько быстро вы в принципе
How fast can you solve your internal network problems, and are you ready for quick scaling?
еще можно улучшить.
Scalability. What else can be improved here?
Связанные
Well, here's a situation related with the service-centric policies. Previously, we've been speaking about IP addresses,
здесь
protocol ports, but here we have another context. We do understand what kind of an application is being used in the system.
теперь руководители
So,
информационных систем
Information system managers can speak the same language with network professionals, and we don't have this technological barrier that was separating them previously.
И следующий момент, связанный с повышением
The next topic is increasing the availability. Well, the system functions correctly, we understand what happens in it, and then in some places we would like to soften our failure.
устойчивость с точки зрения реприкации данных, с точки зрения кластеризации и
From the point of view of clusterization and increase our fault tolerance. And this moment, we want to improve this fault tolerance to all these things. And as a conclusion, I would like to say, what I would like to say
вы увидели
on this level.
этапа
I want you to see the 4 levels of the growth of the networking security of the organization, and I hope that you were ready to identify yourself at which level you are, or at least you have a desire to identify yourself there, and you will understand what are the following steps that you're going to make in your organization.
Спасибо, у меня все.
That's it. Thank you very much.
Спасибо, Павел. Давайте, наверное, 3 вопроса.
Thank you, Pavel. 3 questions from the audience and a gift for the best one.
Добрый
Yeah.
день. Меня зовут Илья.
Hello, my name is Ilya.
В докладе вы много
In your presentation, you've been defining many questions that people ask and asking you. That's wonderful. But I have the following question.
Это фундамент.
Network is a foundation. Foundation has to be extended, reinforced, and you have to constantly work with it. But what is to be done, or what would you advise if at the beginning you would discover that foundation was not laid in a way it should be?
Определенные
And
паттерны, которые вы понимаете.
right now you discover certain patterns to where you understand that there's beginning level, intermediate level, expert level, pro level, and everywhere you see certain leaks and problems. What recommendations would you give in order to fix this situation, and what would you recommend what is to be done, or maybe break everything and start from the scratch? Well, as I've been telling you, the first stage involves organizational measures when you have to understand what do you want to protect and how the network will be segmented. If at one of the previous stages you will understand that you have a problem with understanding of how the network should work, then you should go back to the previous stage and take in consideration those errors that you were able to see at the previous stage.
Добрый день.
Yeah. Hello.
Ваша классификация никак
Hi. Your classification is not related to relations between IT and informational security as such,
правила для сети делают.
because all the networking rules are done by the IT people. Informational security people are trying to comb it up, make it more
Уровень зрелости
applicable. And the levels of maturity
с точки зрения IT
from the point of view of IT,
достаточно зрелыми.
they can be really mature, but from the point of view of security, not mature at all. Well, maybe I will disappoint you, or maybe I will help you. As you said, that there is a strict approach when IT people make the rules and security people do correct those rules. Well, there's a lot of options. What we see in real experience, in real life, how it works. So I'm speaking about the network security. These can be done both by IT guys and security guys. There is no strict definition which department should do this work. So in the context of this, I would divide it between IT and IS. It's a more universal approach that we should apply here.
Ну, мы можем, в общем, подискутировать. Я готов к
We can discuss, and I'm ready for the discussion.
Добрый день, спасибо за...
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. My name is Ivan, and I would like to ask the following question about the first part of your lecture related to the documentation and documenting rules. You've said that you've been speaking about Excel, and many people use Excel very often, but it's documented manually, so every time you have to update it. So I would like to ask you about your perception. Maybe you have an experience.
Такой концепции, как ИАК, то есть инфраструктуры, как...
Have you applied infrastructure as a code? For example, PAPI, pulling rules into GitLab, and do the code review for those rules between special systems infrastructure of the company where there are several admins who go through this process of this approval. And did you have this experience, and what is your perception of this experience? Network as a code, it's not a new concept, and generally speaking, it's been applied by many guys. People from Ozone have been telling us how they've been applying this concept in their life.
И она все равно, наверное,
And Still,
замахивается на что-то очень большое, что
it's trying to
перевести вот в network
overwhelm something that cannot be overwhelmed because it's impossible to transfer all the processes into the code. It's an objective which has to be solved. First of all, I've been speaking about network security as such
листы, и вот здесь как раз автоматизируется
and access lists. This is where everything can be automated very easily, thus helping us to save resources within the company. That's what I would like to say. So I would like to add that we're going to have a presentation with similar topic.
Наверное,
I see some lifted hands, but we should move forward. Well, you will be able to ask those questions a little bit later.
куда вот второй вопрос, который
The book goes to the question number 2. It's a good question for discussion, so
да, спасибо, коллеги.
please give it. Thank you very much for interesting discussion. Pavel, thank you very much.